In this video, we're going to understand Russia's dominance in the Arctic region and how it occupies an unusual position in the world politics while maintaining a low profile and stays relatively quiet. You can think of this video as a podcast where I will talk about many things related to the main topic so that you can have an overall holistic view of the topic. And that is why I'm going to make the timestamps available so that if you want to follow up on any individual segment, you can do so without having to go through the entire video. Alright, then let's begin. Have a look at the size of Russia. Here is Arctic Ocean. Russia's coastline along the Arctic Ocean is roughly around 53%, and Russia's population in this region is roughly around 2 million people. If you look at the Arctic region, 8 countries have territorial claims within the Arctic region. They are Canada, Greenland, which is part of Denmark, Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Russia, and the United States. They are also part of the Arctic Council. It is an intergovernmental organization that was established in 1996 for addressing issues related to the Arctic region. And this is Arctic Circle. On a globe, the Arctic Circle is this. The Arctic Circle passes through the Arctic Ocean, the Scandinavian Peninsula, North Asia, Northern America, and Greenland. All these continents have its landmass extended into the Arctic Circle. In other words, the continental shelves of these 8 countries, or you can say the submerged part of their lands, extends right into the Arctic region. Each country has jurisdiction to exploit the natural resources within 200 nautical miles, which is 370 km of its coast. It comes under the exclusive economic zone. From time to time, these countries battle for control of the North Pole by sending ships that map the Arctic Ocean floor just to discover their extension for each country's continental shelf, so that they can acquire more of the Arctic Ocean seafloor for extracting minerals and large oil reserves that is believed to be present under the Arctic Ocean. The Arctic region is home to roughly 4 million people. As I've mentioned, 2 million of them are from Russia, and the rest of them live in northern Scandinavian countries like Norway, Sweden, and Finland. Now imagine if Russia has 53% of the Arctic coastline and roughly 2 million people residing at the Arctic region. It is natural for Russia to exude dominance and extend influence in this area. If I have to broadly categorize the Russian influence in this area, I will have to lay it out in terms of political, economic, and military influence. If you notice, most of the geopolitical drama is happening in these parts of the world. In geography, we call these regions as tropical and temperate region. But if you look at the Arctic region, this cold, dark place has its own geopolitical drama that many are not even aware of. And even if countries are aware of it, due to this region's geographical location, most of the world has nothing but to feel helpless in not being part of this region's geopolitical drama. So anyhow, the Russians exercise huge amount of political, economic, and military influence in the Arctic region, simply because Russia gets oil and gas, fisheries, and minerals from this region. If you see, these are quite valuable natural resources, and we all know resources are important for the development of any country. Always remember, for any country, economic growth has to be on top. वो कहता है ना, जिसके पास पैसा है, दुनिया उसी को पूछती है. Now for economic growth, the existence of natural resources in abundance is essential. A country which is deficient in natural resources will not be in a position to develop rapidly and forget about exuding any global influence. When you look at these 3 natural resources, among these 3 natural resources, oil and gas activities generate a lot of revenue. Then comes extraction of minerals, and finally the fisheries. Since this video is about how Russians benefit from the Arctic region, but I will also briefly tell you how other countries benefit from the Arctic region. The Arctic region of Russia is the most developed area of all the Arctic regions. It has a vast storehouse of mineral wealth that includes deposits of nickel, copper, coal, oil, natural gas, gold, uranium, tungsten, and diamonds. The North American side of the Arctic, which includes United States and Canada, they also have uranium, copper, nickel, iron, natural gas, and oil deposits. The Arctic region of Europe, which includes Finland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Greenland, and Iceland. Among these 6 countries, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark are part of the European Union. The remaining 3 are not official members of the European Union. However, they have been politically and culturally associated with Europe. Now if you look at the Norwegian Sea, Here you will find a lot of oil and gas reserves, which are jointly run by the United Kingdom and Norway. You must have heard about Brent crude oil. It is largely extracted from the Norwegian part of the North Sea. Likewise, you will also find a lot of oil and gas fields in the Norwegian Sea and the Barents Sea. Most of the Barents Sea is in Russian coast. So whatever oil and natural gas that has to be extracted by the European countries has to be within the Norwegian Sea, a little bit of Barents Sea and North Sea. That means most of the East as well as West European countries have to depend on these Nordic countries for Arctic resources, that is oil and gas, seafood and other minerals. And these benefits are mostly transported through land routes, for example the Great Belt Bridge, and then ship routes that are open throughout the year. As you know, Norway is not part of the European Union, but Norway is a member of the European Free Trade Area. It is a regional trade organization and free trade area consisting of 4 European states: Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway and Switzerland. If you see, Norway taps into the resources of the Norwegian Sea. The European Economic Area unites with the European Union member states and the 3 EFTA states into an internal market governed by the same basic rules. Now these rules allows goods, services, capital and persons to move freely within the European Economic Area in an open and competitive environment. This way both the European Union and the EFTA states benefit from each other. The EFTA states have Arctic resources to sell, so that is how the Arctic region is beneficial for the countries that surrounds it. But still, Russia is the main supplier of crude oil, natural gas and solid fossil fuels to the European Union. After Russia, Norway provides crude oil and natural gas. The Russian Arctic coast is here. Through land routes, so much of distance has to be covered in order to reach the European market. Russia exports oil and gas through pipelines, railways, roadways and huge oil tankers. Here is the list of countries that Russia exports its crude oil to. Most of the Russian oil and gas fields are located here. These are the major ones. You will notice that all these oil and gas fields are within the Arctic Circle. From here, Arctic oil and gas is transported to Ukraine, Belarus, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, Estonia, Hungary, Germany, Kazakhstan, Latvia, Lithuania, Turkey and China. Then further these pipelines pass through the Eastern European countries to rest of the European countries. Similarly, from Kazakhstan, Russian Arctic oil and gas is supplied to further South Asian countries like Pakistan. Most of these pipelines are built during the Soviet era. That means there is a strong dependence of these countries on Russian oil and gas. You know, if there is a strong dependence on one particular country regarding any natural resource, in international relation that is not a good thing, because that soon becomes a geopolitical tool of control. That is why you will hear countries like Belarus, Ukraine, Latvia and Estonia are slowly developing its own oil supply diversification strategy so that they no longer have to depend entirely on Russian oil and gas. Situation like this is a golden opportunity for a country like United States. After all, US and Russia both are superpowers and they have a long history of being so. I'm not saying they are enemies, they are natural strategic competitors. They compete in almost every segment like technology, energy, economy and military. The US foreign policy views Russia as a hostile actor and it has concerns if Russia joins hands with China. Similarly, Moscow's foreign policy sees the United States as an aggressive, unilateral hostile actor and a threat to Russia's domestic stability. And also Russia doesn't like the United States and Western institutions' hegemony on the world politics. The next thing that I want to tell you is about sea ice. The sea ice cover is one of the key components of the polar climate system. So basically when it gets super cold, the Arctic Ocean water freezes. Then it becomes a giant slab of frozen ocean water. Only the upper layer of the sea water or ocean water freezes. As you may know, ice is less dense than water, so it floats on the ocean surface. You will find this phenomena both at the Arctic as well as in the Antarctic region, but the thickness varies significantly in both regions. Antarctic ice is typically 1 to 2 meters thick, while most of the Arctic is covered by sea ice of 2 to 3 meters thick. Some Arctic regions are covered with ice that is 4 to 5 meters thick. Anyhow, now that you know what is sea ice, what you need to understand is that the Arctic water is frozen all throughout the year. But the extent of the sea ice varies from month to month. For example, from the month of May till September, the ice extent of the Arctic water is low, because the northern hemisphere witnesses summer season during these months. Sea ice extent is largely affected by winds and ocean currents, as well as temperature. The northern hemisphere experiences summer during the months of June, July and August, because it is tilted towards the sun and receives the most direct sunlight. Now warm water of the tropical region move northward into the Arctic Ocean and gets all mixed up. The tropical warm water does not reach till the North Pole, but the surrounding sea ice starts to melt during the summer season. And again from October till April, the sea ice of the Arctic extends till the surrounding continental land masses. Now I want you to look at this map. This is the existing sea route, and this is the northern sea route. So basically, if you want to travel from East Asia to Western Europe, the shortest sea route is via the Malacca Strait, Indian Ocean, Gulf of Aden and Suez Canal, which is approximately 21,000 kilometers and it takes roughly 48 days. But if you look at the northern sea route, it cuts the travel distance to just 12,800 kilometers and reduces the journey time by 10 to 15 days. However, the only problem with the northern sea route is the sea ice. As I've mentioned, only 2 to 4 months in a year, that is from the month of May till September, the surface water ice of the Arctic water is low. In the remaining months, the entire Arctic water is frozen. If somehow this northern sea route is cleared from the existing sea ice, then it becomes an uninterrupted maritime highway between Asia and Europe all throughout the year. Since the northern sea route lies well within the Russian Arctic coast, obviously they will extend influence in this region. It is supposed to be Russia's backyard. To navigate through sea ice, Russians have these so-called icebreakers. They are these massive heavy-duty ships. Russia operates the world's largest fleet of major ice-breaking ships. These heavy horse-powered ships dominate the frozen seas of the Arctic. They bear down on ice using their strong hulls to crack ice from above. Russia also has nuclear-powered icebreakers. I don't know exactly how many of them they have, but all of them are Arctica-class icebreakers. One of the main objectives of these icebreakers are to clear shipping lanes for commercial vessels and help Russia exploit oil and gas off its northern coast. I'm not exactly sure as to how many icebreakers United States and Canada has, but I'm sure they have one or two. China also has icebreakers, but they are of medium range. In fact, China is also thinking about investing in nuclear-powered icebreakers. But anyhow, the fact of the matter is, Russia has the largest fleet of super icebreaker ships in the world. And they also own the entire northern sea route that stretches from the Finnish border in the west to the Bering Strait in the east. Now what you have to understand is that the northern sea route is attracting the eyes of some of the biggest economies in the world. I'm talking about China, Japan. Together Russia and China can dominate the world trade with this shorter trade route. And then everyone is also aware of the massive hydrocarbon reserves that lie beneath the Arctic coast that can shift the political game of the energy market into the hands of Russia and China. That is why since 2013, Russia has built 7 new military bases along the northern sea route. So basically Russia understands this game and has quickly militarized its Arctic coast. These military bases are equipped with anti-aircraft missile launchers and advanced radars that are capable of hitting aircraft, missiles and ships. And each base has a 600-kilometer detection zone. And not to forget, the Russian icebreakers are all out there in the Russian Arctic coast. So all of this says only one thing. The message is clear. If you want to sail through the Arctic and travel between Asia and Europe faster, or if you have any plans of extracting oil and gas reserves beneath the Arctic Sea, you will be under Russian oversight. It is just like following the traffic rules. If you go to another country and drive, you have to follow the rules. Now think about it. Any shipment from Europe to China or China to Europe through the northern sea route is estimated to be around 40% faster than traveling through the Suez Canal. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in fuel cost will be saved. And then there will be huge cut down on carbon dioxide emissions. In a nutshell, shorter distances means less travel time, lower fuel consumption and costs. And then as we know, the Arctic Ocean has just 3 or 4 ice-free months in a year. But if you want to trade during the remaining months, then you have to be in good terms with Russia. In return, Russia will help you with icebreakers. The Russian politics on this is so intense that the Russian government is heavily investing in scientific research related to offshore geology. It is an aggressive attempt to do everything possible to find out more extension of the Russian continental shelf, so that Russia can claim more of the Arctic Ocean bed. More continental shelf means more opportunity of oil drilling. In 2007, Russian explorers planted a titanium white, blue and red tricolor flag on the seabed below the North Pole. Russia has also built the world's first icebreaker, the Yermak, 120 years ago in 1898. Then in 1957, it built the first nuclear-powered icebreaker, the Lenin. Its Arctica icebreaker was the first to reach the North Pole in 1977. So all of this tells us how much Russia is serious about the Arctic region, which they also call their own backyard. Now China has the observer status in the Arctic Council. And then China has also publicly said that the Northern Sea Route is going to be a part of their ambitious Belt and Road initiative, which the Chinese call it as the Polar Silk Road. So obviously by looking at all of this, Russia is aware of the fact that China is interested in doing business. And then many of the Asian countries also believe that the Northern Sea Route is the most efficient and cost-effective route to Europe. And then the Russians know that ships often require an escort from icebreaker, even during ice-free months. So overall what I'm saying is that Russia is fully convinced that there is a demand for the Northern Sea Route. Now all it has to do is invest more in the development of seaports, build more icebreakers, install more military facilities, and also invite more foreign investments. Think about it, Russia will do everything for Asia and Europe to connect commercially. In return, it will also give huge power to Russia in controlling the geopolitics of this region. When so much of business starts at a particular region, obviously there will be conflicts. To resolve any conflict, you have to do diplomacy. And diplomacy involves interests. You cannot make everyone happy. As soon as someone is unhappy, that is when politics begin. The country who has more power will impose sanctions in order to control the other nations. So this is Russia's huge Arctic plan. Now I want you to think about it. If at all anybody has to push or challenge this Russian plan, whether it is one country or a group of countries, then who do you think will be the first to defy Russia's future Arctic plans? Of course, it has to be the United States. But then you also have to look at these four countries: Canada, Norway, Iceland and Denmark, who have a shore on the Arctic Ocean. All these four countries, along with the United States, form the NATO alliance. Finland is another country that is part of the NATO alliance, although it does not have direct access to the Arctic Ocean. However, it does share border with Russia. Together, all these NATO countries will play an important role in securing the Arctic region and challenging the Russian plans. There's another sea route that you must be aware of. It is called the Northwestern Passage. It is a sea route that connects the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans through the Canadian Arctic archipelago. The main problem with this sea route is that the US think of it as an international waters, but Canada claims it as their internal waters. In simple words, this route has disputed legal status. And to make it even more simpler, United States will not have much control over this sea route. The US is fine if the ships travel from Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean through the Panama Canal. If you see, the Northwestern Passage is more than 1,000 nautical miles shorter than the traditional shipping route through the Panama Canal, and it will save time, fuel and reduce carbon dioxide emissions. But the only problem with the Northwestern Passage is that it needs to be developed, which requires huge investment. If you look at the Canadian population that resides in the Canadian Arctic archipelago, the population is low. At least the Russian population in its Arctic region is in millions. When it comes to the Canadian Arctic region, the population is somewhere around few thousands. Plus the water in this region also gets frozen. So you need a lot of icebreakers. So you see, there's a lot of cost associated in developing the Northwestern Passage, which I don't think Canada can bear, and also the United States will not allow. And this is where Russia realizes the demand for its Northern Sea Route. That is why Russia has increased the security and heavily invested in upgrading its military in the Arctic Ocean. Now let me end this video by summarizing it. So there are four major sea routes that connects the east with the west. In east we have China, and in the west we have Europe and then United States. It is China and the United States who are competing to gain control over the world trade. The European Union and China are two of the biggest traders in the world. China is now the European Union's second biggest trading partner, behind the United States. Now China is looking at shorter sea routes. Shorter distances means less travel time, lower fuel consumption and costs. So there are 4 major sea routes that connects the east with the west. The first one is through the Malacca Strait, Indian Ocean, Gulf of Aden and Suez Canal, which takes roughly around 21,000 kilometers. The second one is the Northern Sea route via the Russian Arctic coast. It takes roughly around 12,800 kilometers from Shanghai to Northern Europe. Then the third one is the Northwestern Passage, passing through the Canadian Arctic archipelago. It will take 16,000 kilometers from Shanghai to Northern Europe. And the last one is passing through the Panama Canal, and that takes roughly around 24,000 kilometers. As you can see, there's only 2 sea routes that are short for both Europe and China. One is the Northwestern Passage and the other one is the Northern Sea route. These routes are dangerous, but it will save a lot of money, time and emission. Out of these 2 sea routes, the Northern Sea route is the most convenient as well as safe for China. The Russian government is heavily investing in the Northern Sea route to make it more convenient and safe. That is why China is building strong ties with Russia. If Europe wants to trade with the Asian countries in the most cost-efficient way, then they have to build relations with Russia. United States doesn't want that. At the most, the United States can control the European countries through NATO benefits and sanctions. However, it cannot stop China in building partnership with Russia. The Arctic region is full of natural resources, and it is also the least understood ocean. You know, there is a famous saying that humanity has mapped the surface of the moon and Mars to a greater extent, but not the ocean floor of the Arctic. It is estimated that 30% of the world's untapped hydrocarbons can be found in the Arctic, including a full 25% of proven hydrocarbon reserves. Then nickel, platinum, palladium, lead, diamonds, and other rare earth metals are there as well. This is where Russia is the boss, and they realize it. If you look at the markets in Europe and Northeast Asia, they are fully dependent on Russia. Even some NATO member states with unfriendly relations with Russia find themselves largely dependent on Russian oil imports. And together, Russia and China's economic, industrial and military power will increase if they both focus on the Arctic as a natural resource center from which they can pull material. That is why you will also see that the United States uses climate change as one of its political tools against Russia. In fact, the noise and environmental pollution done by ships can severely impact the environment as well as the wildlife in the Arctic. Then we also have heard news of major oil spill within the Russian Arctic region. So all of this are genuine environmental concerns. But you also have to understand that Russia is one of the most vulnerable countries against climate change, with vast Arctic region and billion-dollar infrastructure built over permafrost. So I believe Russians are aware of this. In fact, Russia is also part of the Paris Agreement on climate change, whereas we know that the United States withdrew from it. And you will also see that in countries like Norway, Sweden and Finland, they do a lot of research on climate change, and quite often they blame Russia for their activities in the Arctic. And if you look at the countries that emit the most carbon dioxide, you will find United States and China on top of the list. So whenever these northern European countries come out with some scientific study, it is often said that they are biased towards the United States because they are all part of the NATO alliance. So on one hand, United States tries everything from imposing sanctions to putting the blame of climate change on Russia. And then US also puts pressure and tries to get involved in the matters of Eastern European countries that share border with Russia by pulling in help from its NATO alliance. And if you look at Russia, it maintains a low profile and stays relatively quiet on the global stage. But then it is a veto country. It is also a nuclear state. Then it has hands in almost every region of the earth. The Middle East is closer to them, Asian countries are closer to Russia, European energy market is dependent on Russia. Russia has huge geographical landscape, then it controls most of the Arctic, and last but not the least, they have a badass president. And that is why Russia occupies an unusual position in the world politics. I hope you found this video informative. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section, and thanks for watching it.